You know, for decades, the whole game in supply chains was really simple. Be faster and be cheaper. That's it. But let's be real. After everything we've seen, pandemics, ports shutting down, all sorts of global shocks, that old model isn't just a little stressed. It's fundamentally broken. But the really smart companies, they're not just fixing it, they're flipping the script entirely, turning all that risk into a huge competitive advantage. So let's dive into exactly how they're pulling it off.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the new rules of the road for today's world. Then, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, the critical math that so many companies are getting wrong. From there, I'll introduce you to a really powerful solution called baseandsurge. We'll cover how to pick the right partner for this strategy, and then wrap it all up by showing you how this turns into a massive edge over your competition.
So, the very first thing we have to do is make a major shift in how we think. We're moving out of a world that was just obsessed with efficiency and into a world that absolutely demands resilience. Remember just in time? I mean, it was the gold standard for a stable, predictable world. It was all about cutting holding costs and maximizing speed. But today's world is, well, it's anything but stable, right? The new goal, the new reality is just in case. And this is where the focus flips from saving a few pennies to making damn sure you can keep your business running no matter what chaos the world throws at you. Now, this does not mean we just start hoarding mountains of inventory. Okay, that's just wasteful and super expensive. The new, smarter approach is what we call strategic buffering. It's all about intelligently figuring out your buffer, not just for the demand you expect, but for the very real risk of volatility in your supply chain. It's a calculated strategic play, and it's the foundation for the whole solution we're about to unpack. So how does this whole strategic buffering thing actually work in the real world? Well, this is where things get interesting, because it all boils down to one critical calculation, a calculation that honestly most businesses are still getting completely wrong. So I want you to just take a second and think about your own business. Are you absolutely positive that your safety stock calculation is built for the world we live in right now? Because I'm telling you, those old formulas, they could be leaving you wide open to massive, massive risk. This quote right here really nails the mindset shift we have to make. For years, we all worried about a sudden spike in customer demand. But the biggest threat today, it isn't a flash sale. It's whether your supplier can actually get your product to you on time, or even at all. The risk has completely moved upstream. Now, to deal with this, you need to use what we call the global shift formula. And hey, don't worry, you don't need to memorize this equation. What's super important is understanding why it's so powerful. You see, the standard formulas, they mostly just look at swings in demand, but this one, it adds that second part that accounts for lead time instability. And because that lead time variance gets multiplied by your average demand squared, any little delay from your supplier has a huge exponential impact on the inventory you need. That, right there, is the game changer. Okay, let's make this super real. Let's say you sell about 500 units of something every day. Using one of those standard old school formulas that only really looks at demand, the math might spit out a number like 450 units for your safety stock. And you'd think, okay, 450, that seems pretty reasonable, right? But watch what happens when we factor in the real world. Let's say your 30-day lead time from an overseas supplier suddenly gets hit with just a 5-day delay because of port congestion. It happens all the time. When you run the numbers with the global shift formula, your actual safety stock requirement, well, it explodes to 4,150 units. That is nearly 10 times higher. This gap right here is your true risk. And the consequence of getting this wrong? It's brutal. If a disruption hits and you're just sitting on those 450 units, you will be completely sold out of product in less than a single day. That's how fast a modern supply chain can just completely fall apart. Okay, so that number, 4,150 units, that's kind of terrifying, isn't it? I mean, holding that much extra stock could absolutely crush your working capital. But the solution isn't just to go out and buy way more inventory. It's to build a smarter, more flexible system. And this right here is the key insight. The goal is not to build a fortress of products stacked to the ceiling. The goal is to build a system that gives you faster options, giving you the agility to react when, not if, the next disruption hits. And this is exactly how you do it. The base and surge model. It's brilliant. You split your supply. Your base supplier, who's probably overseas, handles the bulk of your volume, say 80%. They're low cost, but they're slow. Then you have your surge supplier, who's likely domestic. They handle the other 20%. Yeah, they're more expensive, but here's the critical part. They are fast.
They can deliver in 5 days, not 30. One is for your day-to-day efficiency, and the other is your emergency lifeline.
Now look at the insane impact this has on our safety stock. We go from needing that terrifying number, 4,150 units to cover our slow supplier, all the way down to under 1,000 units. So why the huge drop? It's because our emergency backup is so fast, we just don't need to hold a gigantic, expensive buffer. This strategy literally saves millions in holding costs while giving you better protection. It's amazing. But listen, this whole strategy is only as strong as your surge partner. If you pick the wrong backup, you're just creating a false sense of security. So you have to be incredibly careful, incredibly diligent when you're vetting them. Here are 3 questions that are absolute non-negotiables. First, are they geographically separate? A backup supplier that's in the same storm path or on the same power grid is no backup at all. They share your risk. Second, are they independent upstream? If they get their raw materials from the exact same place as your primary supplier, you haven't actually diversified anything. And third, and this is a big one, do they have idle capacity? A factory that's already running at 95% can't help you in a crisis. You need a partner who has some slack in their system. And finally, here's the golden rule for managing this relationship. You have to keep it warm. Don't just sign a contract and then forget about them for a year. Give your surge supplier a steady diet of your business, maybe 10-20% of your regular orders. Why? Because when a crisis hits and everyone is blowing up their phone, you're going to be the customer they actually pick up for. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. When you do this right, when you implement this strategy correctly, supply chain resilience stops being this boring defensive cost you have to pay. It transforms into a powerful, offensive weapon for your business. So let's lock in the key takeaways. Number 1, supplier volatility, not customer demand, is your biggest risk today, period. 2, you have to use the global shift formula to understand your true exposure. 3, implement a base and surge strategy. It's the smartest way to balance cost and security. 4, vet your surge partners for true diversification, not just a second name on a piece of paper. And finally, number 5, in this chaotic world, resilience isn't just insurance, it's a competitive weapon. It's how you stay on the shelf when all your competitors have vanished. And that really brings us to the final, critical question you should be asking yourself. In an age of nonstop disruption, is your supply chain a fragile relic of a calmer time, or is it a resilient, flexible engine that's actually built to win in the world of tomorrow?